How's it going? 20 people who watch this video. I'm not going to make this very special. I didn't put on pants. I am sitting here all day doing nothing but research. And among some of the things that I can quickly tell you from today's research, one of the primary constituents of chemtrails is manganese, which causes things such as insomnia, which I know many of you suffer with. So if you're looking for an explanation as to your insomnia, I wouldn't be surprised if you turn no further than manganese. As for the other constituents of the chemtrails, they appear to be based upon the notion that when these particulates fall within the range of 3 and 4G signals, which actually do not travel up but lie as a pool upon the lower valleys of the world. So if you go up to a mountain, 4G does not work. If you go into a valley, 4G will work. The general notion is that as these particulates, metals, specifically metals, things such as aluminum, as these metals coat the entirety of a valley that you are lying in, the 4G is able to create a magnetic field which manipulates these and may be doing damage to your entire body. I was looking at some magnetic field demonstrations, which is interesting because the word is actually demon, which means wise being, and stration, which is a rapidly expanding item, like a virus, something that begins at a small point and expands outward on orders of magnitude. So it would be like the wisdom of a demon expanding at the pace of a virus is a demonstration, which is kind of cool. So I was watching a magnetic field demonstration, and the notion that I was picking up was that as the iron filaments actually moved from a period of chaotic fractal relationships to a period of rotating, generally a left-to-right notion on the right bound. I don't know why, and probably if you flip it you'll notice that it flips, but in the example he was giving us, and I'm not quite sure which one is north and south bound, but on one particular bound it was rotating left to right, and on the other it was rotating left to right. But the notion is that one was going in and the other was coming out at the toroidal vortice. So, just noting that, thought that was pretty interesting. You would see this occur in, say, a bar magnet as you travel from the north to the south, up through. What else? So anyways, I'm wondering if these particulates have any kind of impact upon you, and more than likely, since a combination of a metal in the air, literally in the air, with a magnetic field created by 4G, would likely cause some disruptions in other magnetic fields. And I began to take a look at ion channels as they pass through a lipid bilayer. And I began thinking to myself, well, more than likely as the ions pass through the channel, they create a spiral vortex of magnetism. Pretty cool. And so then I noted that the actual shape of the ion channels themselves probably also developed along the way, evolutionarily, due to the shape of it. And isn't it interesting that the shape of the proteins forms the initial portion of the inside of a toroid? That's pretty interesting too. Anyways, it got me to thinking. I remember seeing some examples of mitosis in cells, and they looked exactly like iron filings over a bar magnet. And so it began to occur to me that what is actually happening, the reason why everything's getting fucked up, is the process of mitosis is being destroyed, and that's why everyone's coming down with cancer. So more than likely, it's the fact that you're breathing in chemtrails and living in an area of Wi-Fi and 4G, and it's actually destroying your body. This is my last month here, and I'm going to go to someplace far away. More than likely, hopefully, New Hampshire. Out in the middle of fucking nowhere. The farther I get away from any kind of signals, humans in general, I think the better. I would kind of relate what we're seeing today as like an instance of Noah and Noah's Ark. In the example, maybe not that Noah builds an ark, but in this example that Noah leaves the human populations. Maybe it could be more closely related to, what are those two cities that get destroyed by God during an Armageddon where he throws down all these rocks and flame and fire and shit? Sodom and Gomorrah. To be an example of Sodom and Gomorrah. So this is another example of the wrath of God in the form of a bunch of stupid elites. Basically trying to wipe out even stupider Muppets. Even impressively stupider Muppets. Yeah, and so anyways, that definitely appears to me to be the case. So if you want to do like Silver Futurist, who watches these videos every once in a while, just in case you wonder who else watches these videos, I would go ahead and do what he did and move away to a farm, well away from any kind of Wi-Fi signals and such, where you won't have magnetic fields disturbing your process of mitosis. Which means that when you do develop cancerous cells, it'll be in such a small number that your body can wipe them out. As for the chemtrails, I don't think there's really anything you can do about those, except for write to your congressman, or lynch them. Either or. Other things that I learned about today. I learned about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a buy. Bitcoin was a buy at 100. Knew it was a buy at 110. This morning popped at 370. 290, 300. Sold at 270 is your goal. And buy again somewhere about 150 to 100. Can it go to zero? Yeah. Do I think it's gonna? No. What is the research? Well, I'll tell you that fractals tend to repeat in shape, but not always for the same reason. A greater trader than myself once told me that he doesn't even pay attention to news. He likes the idea of fractals. And he thinks that news is kind of just like the story that gets in the way of the real story, which is the repetition of ideas and the repetition of patterns. Those patterns would involve things like, for instance, in trading, emotions. Oh, definitely emotions. And so periods of euphoria and fear are what help dictate a lot of these markets. And in a rapidly growing market, most certainly one such as Bitcoin, the growth is rapid and then strongly declining. So lots of in a market such as Bitcoin that has the potential to grow as quickly as it does, and the manipulation of all the HFT that run it, one can certainly expect prices to explode upward and downward as part of this thing's fractals. So, anyways, as a final note, oh yeah, I was looking up the brain again because, most of my fascination with magnetism comes with the fact that I feel like I can move things in my brain. And, I feel like this portion of my brain spins this way, left to right. And this portion of my brain, the right one, spins right to left. And they both go inward. Like in here. I don't know why. But at the same time, I also feel like they also spin, if you imagine this is the back of my head and here's the front, they spin this way, left to right. But today, I kind of felt like when I made myself more right dominant, because I'm getting better at using my right brain, I spun right to left. Normally I just spin left to right and go, well, what the fuck are you even talking about? But if you resort back to the other videos I'd showed you, you fucking tried that shit like I told you to, well, things would be going better for you. If you had bought fucking silver options, like I told you, silver futurist, things would be going better for you, wouldn't they? So things go around this way. But if you use your right brain, things go around this way. But if you use your right brain, they go right to left, which is, I don't know why, but I would assume better. I looked up this thing called bicambrialism. Fuck if I remember the name. The guy's name was Jaynes, spelled Jaynes, and he died in '97. Would really like to ask him some questions, but he has this crazy idea, and I will entertain it with the notion that it is crazy, but the fact that I'm mentioning it means that I think it has potential. So that's, hopefully I don't have to say that again. It's kind of a crazy idea. And the idea is this. Your right brain is wired differently for entities which you do not understand and cannot really communicate with, to communicate with you. And that the vast majority of you exists in one hemisphere of the brain, the left one, whereas the demon within, as he referred to it, lives in the right, and it has the ability to communicate with your brain. The notion, I think, is a little bit exaggerated, but I think there's a kernel of truth at the bottom of the barrel. And his point was that in books such as the Odyssey, we see clear examples of men behaving as machines. However, today we see a greater example of men behaving as autonomous creations that think for themselves, which is mostly in line with this idea of a paradigm shift. But it is met at the same time with this global elite plan to wipe everybody out, using things such as manganese. I mean, like, look, they've got Lyme disease cross everywhere. I already warned you assholes about Lyme disease. If you live anywhere near a Lyme dangerous area and you haven't fucking done any research on it, I already told you dumbasses, go out and fucking do it, but you don't fucking listen anyways because you got tiny little brains, so go fuck yourselves. I'm at the point where I just basically hate people, and I would like to set out upon a path of, like, the elites to kill everybody, because I just have no more respect for them anymore. They don't see, they don't wake up, they don't try, they don't do anything. All frustrations and angers when it comes to trying to change people. As a smart guy once said, trying to change limited minds with limited time is one of the hardest things in the world. And I actually pausing to wonder whether or not it's possible at all. One thing I can tell you, though, as a final note, the final thing I'm going to say. So take a look at that bicambrialism or whatever, where your right brain is a demon. My goal is, if that's indeed true, then I'm going to be able to do the same things I do here, over here. I don't care if it's just a repetition of whatever's happening here is placed over there. I don't care. As long as it's mine, and I control it, and I can move anything I want inside of it, then I'm happy with it. But as a final note, I've had the pleasure of being able to experiment on another human being, and really push the envelope of, like, things that you normally would never get to do with anybody. I mean, anybody. Most people would have a violent reaction of, like, potentially jumping off a bridge or attempting to kill you. Like one of those reactions where it causes a snap in the person. And I tried doing that. And what I've discovered is that snap only exists for some people. Most of the time, when you try and change somebody, the easiest way to do it is not to coddle them, okay? Which is like a demeaning kind of thing. but like just the most loving embrace you could possibly do. Hold them like a fucking baby. Like you would a cat. When you roll a cat inside your arms, right? Right? When you put a cat on your belly and you kind of like hug it and it purrs and shit. Do that to another human being. Don't force them into it, but just keep them from getting away, because you know how people like to play hard to get and shit. That'll work. That'll work so well. You have no idea how well it will work. And so I'm going to have to go back to that methodology. But for me, I don't think that really worked. I don't think that would work. I don't think it did work. I think what worked for me was the realization that compassion was oftentimes brutal and violent. It has to do with this notion of like everything that we've been taught as Muppets is actually backwards. That somebody watching out for your best intentions will often yell at you, but somebody trying to trick you will often make you feel complacent and calm. So I feel like true compassion is when you scream and yell at somebody to listen to you. The only problem is that most people don't pay attention to that. For those people, they always will be, forever and always, sheep. For everybody else who wants to be a god, they'll be able to pause and recognize and not panic when somebody else yells at them for doing something stupid. When you do something stupid, that voice will be there. You will have simply forgot to listen to it. And when somebody else reminds you of it, forcefully, you'll pay attention and recognize the importance of what's being said, not even necessarily the tone in which it's being said, just the words. For everybody else, tonality is everything. Not saying that tonality isn't everything. I can talk to my cat using tonality. I don't know what he's fucking saying when he goes meh, but like, I can tell if he's grumpy or not. But I can tell many other things the more deeply I read into his tone. And he can, of course, read my tone as well. So, I guess that's about it. I don't really have anything else to say. You guys can think and ponder upon that shit, the 3 or 4 of you that are still watching. And, have a nice day.